high standards of evidence and argument. But other values are also important, some of which make it difficult to keep things neat. My own philosophical sympathies and antipathies are easily stated. I believe one should trust problems over solutions, intuition over arguments, and pluralistic discord over systematic harmony. Simplicity and elegance are never reasons to think that a philosophical theory is true. On the contrary, they are usually grounds for thinking it false. Given a knockdown argument for an intuitively unacceptable conclusion, one should assume there is probably something wrong with the argument that one cannot detect, though it is also possible that the source of the intuition has been misidentified. If arguments or systematic theoretical considerations lead to results that seem intuitively not to make sense, or if a neat solution to a problem does not remove the conviction that the problem is still there, or if a demonstration that some question is unreal leaves us still wanting to ask it, then something is wrong with the argument, and more work needs to be done. Often the problem has to be reformulated, because an adequate answer to the original formulation fails to make the sense of the problem disappear. It is always reasonable in philosophy to have great respect for the intuitive sense of an unsolved problem, because in philosophy our methods are always themselves in question, and this is one way of being prepared to abandon them at any point. What ties these views about philosophical practice together is the assumption that to create understanding, philosophy must convince. That means it must produce or destroy belief, rather than merely provide us with a consistent set of things to say. And belief, unlike utterance, should not be under the control of the will, however motivated. It should be involuntary. Of course, belief is often controlled by the will. It can even be coerced. The obvious examples are political and religious. But the captive mind is found in subtler forms in purely intellectual context. One of its strongest motives is the simple hunger for belief itself. Sufferers from this condition find it difficult to tolerate having no opinion for any length of time on a subject that interests them. They may change their opinions easily when there is an alternative that can be adopted without discomfort, but they do not like to be in a condition of suspended judgment. This can express itself in different ways, all of them well represented in the subject. One is an attachment to systematic theories that produce conclusions about everything. Another is the penchant for clear-cut dichotomies that force a choice between the right alternative and the wrong one. Another is the disposition to adopt a view because all the other views one can think of on the topic have been refuted. Only an intemperate appetite for belief will motivate its adoption on such grounds. As a last resort, those who are uncomfortable without convictions but who also cannot manage to figure out what is true may escape by deciding that there is no right or wrong in the area of dispute, so that we need not decide what to believe, but can simply decide to say what we like so long as it is consistent, or else float above the battle of deluded theoretical opponents, observant but detached. Superficiality is as hard to avoid in philosophy as it is anywhere else. It is too easy to reach solutions that fail to do justice to the difficulty of the problems. All one can do is try to maintain a desire for answers, a tolerance for long periods without any, an unwillingness to brush aside unexplained intuitions, and an adherence to reasonable standards of clear expression and cogent argument. It may be that some philosophical problems have no solutions. I suspect this is true of the deepest and oldest of them. They show us the limits of our understanding. In that case, such insight as we can achieve depends on maintaining a strong grasp of the problem instead of abandoning it, and coming to understand the failure of each new attempt at a solution and of earlier attempts. That is why we study the works of philosophers like Plato and Berkeley, whose views are accepted by no one. Unsolvable problems are not for that reason unreal. These essays have both internal and external